Yeah, dear colleagues, just to remind you about some simple rules of today's meeting, because we are doing it as an open meeting. So please keep yourself muted. We will have, as I mentioned, Q&A session after our speakers. But before we start, I would like to give the floor to Olli Henman, who is a co-chair of major groups and other stakeholders, and who also led actually VNR's group for some years and have a broad experience in this topic. And yeah, Olli, please, I know you are in New York at the forum actually, so thank you for joining, and give us some introductory words, please.
Thank you so much, Nelia. Good morning. Yes, from a very cold and snowy New York, and good afternoon and good evening to all the colleagues around the world. Wonderful to be able to join you at this point. Yes, as Nelia has highlighted, I'm one of the co-chairs of the major groups and other stakeholders. There are 22 different stakeholder groups recognized, originally going back to the 1992 Rio Earth Summit, and a number of additional stakeholder groups have been recognized at various points, including in 2015, and that's taken us up to 22 different thematic and regional groupings. So whether women's major group, children and youth, business, trade unions, NGOs, and now crucially the different regional mechanisms like the ECE regional mechanism. In fact, we're hoping that the final regional mechanism from Latin America will also be joining soon, so then every regional mechanism will also be included. So it's great to see many people on the call and some familiar faces. The VNR process, as we know, has been really at the heart of the SDG implementation. I've been following VNRs every year since the first year, and what we see is quite an interesting progression from the early years, where many member states were saying that they had not enough data, it was too early to say what was happening, through to now second, third, and in some cases even fourth round presentations, where there's already a body of evidence to build on and a number of years of implementation to look back on, as well as follow-ups from previous VNRs. And so that's why I think this webinar is so timely now, because we are at a point where many countries are already moving through the cycle, and we only have just under 5 years to go now. So we're really in the final push for the VNRs. And we will have the next SDG summit, the final SDG summit, happening in this cycle in 2027. And so it's really crucial that we encourage and enable and work with colleagues at the country level to make sure that there is that follow-up from the VNRs, that there is real implementation at the country level, and that we can all then keep in touch for final VNRs in each of the countries over the coming years. So looking forward to hearing your reflections and hearing about the situation in your own countries. I know that it can be quite a mixed picture. Some governments have been much more methodical about showing progress on VNR implementation. Others have been a little bit more ad hoc. So it'd be interesting to hear from all of you, and hope to see many of you online over the coming days as well in other sessions. Thanks, Nelia. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Olli, for this really important words, also in terms of what's happening actually in last 10 years. And indeed, I think why we also decided to organize this event, because we are always so rushed and motivated during the VNR process, and then we jump on the next cycle. But I think it's really important to reflect actually what happened after VNR and how actually VNR helped to shape some policies or changes, or what kind of data is collected in the country after VNR process. So actually to understand how voluntary national reviews helped at the national level to build this necessary positive change. So, and I'm happy that today we managed with Aysata, who is a co-chair of this group, to invite three colleagues, three speakers from different regions. And for us, it's really important that we have voices from different regions presented at this meeting, that we hear different experiences and experiences from different backgrounds. And we today we'll hear three speakers from Africa, from Asia, and Europe, and I'm happy to invite them all in this order to make their intervention. And the first speaker will be Mary Avelana Ada, co-chair of Ghana CSO platform on SDGs and executive director Transparency International Ghana. The second speaker is Akbar Mehfooz Alam. He represents a CSO working group and Site Savers India. And the last speaker is Marie-Louise Absagen from Forum for Environment in for NGO Forum on Environment in Development from Germany. So we welcome all of you and thank you very much for finding time and today presenting your views on the process and what happened actually after the VNR process. And I would start with Mary. Mary, are you here with us?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Please tell us about your experience, what actually, how the process of a voluntary national review went in your country. So yeah, just to remind everyone, we today invited colleagues to speak because their countries presented their voluntary national reviews in 2025. And we want basically immediately to see what happened after. Was there any follow-up process, any engagement, or maybe there was none, but still, what are the lessons and challenges behind this process? So, Mary, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to colleagues across the globe. It is an honor and a privilege to be called upon to share Ghana's implementation process, the lessons after the VNR in New York recently. So Ghana is using the decentralized planning system as it sets out its national plan. We since 1990. So we also have a process that is inclusive. So Ghana begins by putting in place an implementation framework that is very detailed because the organization that is responsible for doing this is the National Planning Agency with many different structures that are also added to ensure effective coordination and implementation. Let me say that stakeholders in this process cut across civil society, cuts across traditional authorities, development partners, academia, and the rest. Let me again add that in the process, we have an SDG implementation or coordination committee, which is responsible for leading the VNR processes and including all the process in it. And let me say that this group is cut across, or it cuts across sectors. There is a civil society representation on board, and that civil society rep is the coordinator of the platform and also one of the co-chairs who happens to be myself on this process. So the implementation committee is responsible for developing all the areas around the SDG VNRs in country and also ensuring that we make a very good report or capture all the data that is needed for sharing when it comes to going for the VNRs. Let me quickly say that the last VNR was our third, and so it means we have gotten some experience. So we work on thematic areas, including the economic, poverty and social protection, education and STEM, health, climate change and environment, and also the thematic area on governance, which seeks to cut across or seem to cut across. So the VNR successes, which you ask, that's per your question in Ghana, after the July process, which I have indicated was very inclusive, the NDPC has since come back, and there have been various convenings that have shown that there is significant attention to the recommendations, particularly noting that the results from most of the key areas I've mentioned have not been attained. And so the NDPC and also the SDGs Implementation Coordinating Committee have designed a work plan for stakeholder engagements after New York, and since held some engagements with the UNDP and also other stakeholders to pay attention to the recommendations and how we can go on with their implementation. Again, as I speak, the processes, there have been some trainings that have focused on localization of the VLRs, and we have been part of this. In all of this, we are, as civil society, are always part of this. So that's key for us, that we've come back from New York and we have paid attention to developing a plan and to also track. Then one of the key issues have been budgeting. That's one of the findings we put together, that the budgeting for SDGs have not been very good, particularly when it comes to the areas we are talking about. So in this year's budget, 2026 budget, which was read in 2025 November, we saw significant increases in the budget allocations for targeted sectors. And then I can mention STEM education, which is very important, development of or setting up of ICT labs, and various infrastructure in our education systems to ensure that there is more to achieving the target set. Then when you look at the area of there have been some significant allocations to maternal health, to universal health coverage in Ghana, and also malaria control, malaria and HIV control, which are targets which are lagging behind. Then in the issues around decentralization, tax reforms, data systems, and also allocations to increasing allocations to the governance sub-thematic focus area to ensure that we are broadening the scope around accountability, transparency, and integrity. I can also say that since June, we as a country, the statistical service, the Ghana Statistical Service, has relooked our indicators, and we have since added 3. So from 102, we now have 105 indicators which we would be looking at working with in the future. Again, civil society as partners to ensuring implementation have continued to highlight progress. And for us, we have 17 platforms cutting across. Since July, those of us who attended have, as part of the steering committee, debriefed on some of the findings, the engagements we were part of, and we've also done a lot of media interactions to bring attention to the outcomes from the VNR and also speak to the recommendations, engage in stakeholder dialogues on some of the findings as Ghana makes progress to ensuring gender equality, facilitated by one of the women focus groups, that is Net Rights. We have held discussions on also improving our engagements and outcomes through our platforms and our collaborations with other civil society organizations and with our development partners. Recently, we made inputs to the budget, and that is how come you see the significant increases in allocations to this. And our plan is also straightforward to ensure that we monitor not just the budget, but the allocations to the various sectors and also advocate for more of such to happen to ensure that Ghana as a country is not just allocating budgets, but it's also ensuring the disbursements of same to make sure that we track our progress within the various targets and also the indicators that are set for us. Some recommendations I may add, if I may, if my timing is not already elapsed, is that we believe that collective ownership of the VNR recommendations are very key. Otherwise, we would see the state doing it and civil society also working alongside, and we would not make progress. And so the ICC becomes a very good tool for us to ensure that we are checking and rechecking and putting our eyes on the ball to ensure that nothing is amiss. Then creating or co-creating the implementation mechanism also is one of the areas we believe that in policy implementation, co-creation inures results. And so for us, we believe that our presence on the ICC, that is the main implementation body, also helps with that. And then increasing awareness and bringing attention to the VNR is very critical for the media, bringing the media on board, ensuring they understand the processes, and ensuring that we make the various processes known would help with the tracking as well. And then bringing all citizens along through the various district level interventions that we have, the platforms. We believe that citizens must be aware from end poverty to the last partnerships. And also in Ghana, we have a youth focus SDG platform. So in all these, the aim is that we let them know, understand, appreciate, and comprehend what is happening and why there is a need to ensure that we follow up on government to help to ensure that we achieve the targets that we've set for ourselves. On this note, I believe that in the agenda of leaving no one behind, we would be able to do this and ensure we do it effectively if we use all the networks and partnerships we have from both Ghana and across the globe to ensure that in the Ghanaian case, we are making significant progress. Thank you very much, Nele.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you for your really valuable contribution. And I think what is very, at least for me, was interesting to hear that you really did work with media and spread the information after the results. Because we know, for example, I know that right now Brazil, for example, actively engage in social media already in promoting upcoming VNR. But I think it's even more important that people in the country, broader audiences are aware that the country reported and this is the progress. And I think it's really great that you mentioned this example that you managed to work with media in this process. Thank you very much. I will go now for the next speaker, and all the participants, if you would like, you can share questions in the chat to speakers or just raise them after by raising hands. But now we will proceed to Akbar, and I will try to share my screen.
Let me try Nelia once again.
You would like to try, or I can just already start it if it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, just.
Thank you very much, Nelia and Ollie. My special appreciation for you for the MGoS team for organizing this cross-country learning initiatives, and my special thanks to Mary. In fact, she has presented so comprehensively about the Ghana as a country and the VNR processes that they have adopted. I am, for all the colleagues who have joined, I am representing the country which is now the largest populated country in the world. So it is said that 1/3 humanity is there in India. And good evening once again from the chilled capital of India, Delhi. As a country, we have taken the VNR processes, within the SDG framework very, very seriously. And can we go to the next slide? Yes. So this is a slide where I'm trying to actually, tell people here that, of the 67 countries in the Asia Pacific region, there are approximately 15 countries who have presented more than three VNRs. There are three countries, Indonesia, Philippines, and Qatar, who have presented four VNRs. And India as a country, we have presented three VNRs. For the first one being in 2017, the second one in 2020, and then in 2025. And this signifies, the country's commitment to the VNR process and the engagement with the civil society. As a country, we have more than 3.5 million civil society organizations. And given the length, the breadth, and the population size and the civil society network that we have, the whole VNR process is, when it is conducted, it is no lesser than a celebration which happens. And we call it sometimes, the SDG festival or the data festival, initiatives that we do in the process of the VNR. Next slide. This is, the snapshot from the last SDR report. And essentially what I'm trying to say is that it is because of this VNR process, the engagement with the multi-stakeholder, the civil society, you see the consistent, performance of India as a country, which started with a rank of 110 way back in 2016 with a score of 48.6%, 4%. And now we are part of the 100, the 100th SDG club. I mean, in terms of the rank, we are standing at 99 with a score of 67, and with some of the impressive performance in couple of key, sustainable development goals, which includes poverty, education, health, inequalities. Also, we are sort of lifting in couple of goals, which includes climate action and and couple of other goals. But essentially, as a country, because of these processes and the involvement of the civil society networks and the multi-stakeholder approach, the country is consistently improving in its SDG performance. And the notable point for India is the current government which is in power, and that government also came into power way back in 2014. And it is exactly co-terminus with the SDG agenda, and therefore the ruling party which is there in the power, they are living with the SDG as a important mandate. And therefore the resourcing of sustainable development goal framework and the tracking mechanisms are quite good in terms of the length and breadth of the systems which are available in the country. There are a couple of regional disparities we have because of the length and breadth and the size of the country, and that is something at the greatest asks when it comes to the VNR processes. Next slide. In terms of the VNR processes, the first thing that we do in India, I mean, based on our experiences from 2017 and then in 2020 and post-COVID, what we did actually, we sort of, because the whole world is formatted and we had a very bad COVID period in India. So we thought of actually gathering a lot of evidences through our constituency mapping before we get into the VNR processes. And one of the strongest processes that we have adopted before the VNR processes to happen is that we created a lot of constituencies like disability constituency, the farmers constituency, youth constituency. We have business constituencies. So these are constituencies and the task force which were primarily responsible in terms of conducting the stakeholder consultation and inform into the processes of the VNR. And what you can see in the picture that site savers in India in particular, we were leading the disability constituency and the processes around that. So a lot of VLRs we had done with the participation of the organizations of persons with disabilities, right from the district and the sub-district level, so that the voices from the ground are heard, to turbocharge the remaining part of the SDG processes. The VNR report, which has was tabled by Government of India, it has taken a lot of aspirations of those grassroots voices, which includes the data disaggregation issues. We have the regional disparities that I had highlighted, and there are actually intersectionalities issues in terms of taking the SDG to all sections. Next slide. This is one of the example that I would like to share with my colleagues here. Is in India, site service in particular is engaging in the disability constituency job, wherein we are trying to influence how disability as an agenda is well configured, and this is one of the important constituencies for the LNOB constituency per se. And we have been working with our national agency Niti Aayog and the UNRC office, which is the UN country main office, that how more and more disability indicators can be figured out in our national indicator framework, because this is the framework which will then track and then monitor the whole SDG performance. And one of the things that we did out of our SDG, the VNR processes and the VLR processes, is identified 153 disability inclusive indicators, and we submitted to the ministry and to the national agency which looks into the SDG processes. And the good news is that despite with lot of efforts being put to and with series of consultations, because one thing I want to just actually emphasize, that VNR or the VNR processes doesn't end with the submission of the report. You have to have a lot of follow-ups actually with your concerned ministries and the concerned agencies. And what we see that when the national indicator framework was developed for the first time in 2016, and when we saw the national indicator framework, the revised one, which happened the post VNR 2025, it has actually accommodated, it has taken 13 disability inclusive indicators, and in a way the constituency which was never actually getting the data or were lacking the evidence in terms of the SDG performance will be now reporting under these 13 indicators. So these are all small small steps in our SDG progresses which we are able to make when it comes to advancing the LNOB agenda within the SDG framework. Can we go to the next slide? So the key learnings that what we can offer is one of the things that we have done from the beginning is the constituency-based approach that we have created. I told you that different constituencies have been formed by the civil society groups, farmers, youth, disability, business, and then there are climate action groups which are working, and they are primarily mapping the indicators that is required in terms of performance, and also same time the vulnerable groups and the intersectionalities which are going to be affected under this particular SDG goals. And also one of the things that we have taken that when the VLR or the VNR processes happens, we just actually don't take all the SDGs in a wholesome approach, but rather we have prioritized the SDGs in terms of the consultations. In the last consultation, mostly we have prioritized goal number 1, 3, 4, 10, and 8, and which were primarily the goals responsible to the individual lives and the individual development, like the health, education, employment, and all of that. So while the countries can do a thorough analysis of the entire SDGs, but our insights goes that if we can prioritize the SDGs and the targets, that will be helpful in terms of messaging within the VNR processes and placing with the country commitments much better. The third thing is that, as I told you, then on the VLR processes, especially the local reviews that we have created as a mechanism, that will not only actually build the capacities of the stakeholders, but that also helps us in terms of localizing the sustainable development goal at the bottom of the governance. So that is one of the things that we can focus as a country learning. The fourth thing is the diverse groups, and especially the youths and the private sectors. India as a country is growing in terms of the private sector. So what we have tried actually just not confined our consultations within the civil society organizations, but we have also engaged hugely with the private sectors, who are also contributing to the social and development indicators, and also try to bring in more youths with disabilities or youths from the different constituencies, so that for them the future matters more than the people actually in the older age group. So this is one of the key considerations we have taken in all our considerations. And lastly, our recommendation goes that how the UN country offices can facilitate creation of the LNOB CSO alliances and platforms, and that could be a good mechanism for the SDG processes to be more better institutionalized. And we are expecting that the UN offices in particular should take the lead in terms of facilitating those LNOB alliances and groups as a mechanism for wider consultation, and mostly working at the policy space level. We have created an innovation called the SDGCC. What does it stand? It stands for Sustainable Development Goal Coordination Center. We have not been successful in terms of in all the provinces of India, but half of the provinces have created this mechanism, and these are the coordination centers primarily dealing and managing multi-stakeholders, and creating all the consultations, and trying to bring in the voices within the SDG processes. And those coordination centers are also good mechanisms for the VLR and the VNR processes to be institutionalized at a country level. So this is where actually I would like to stay with my presentation. Nelia, we can and discuss further. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Akbar. And yes, and thank you very much for your contribution and telling about, I think, exactly this input on indicators, because indeed we always talk about the lack of data and disaggregate data. And I think this is a great example that particularly with the group for people with disabilities, you manage actually to achieve such a great progress that you introduce this new indicators. And I think among your recommendations also about engagement of UN country offices, I think it's also a great possibility actually for follow-up processes. And I think we definitely need also to look in that direction more. And just because I'm looking at the time, we announced 1 hour, so I really would like to jump to Marie-Louise, that she has also opportunity to share her experience with Germany. Marie-Louise.
Yes, thank you, Nelia, and good day to all the colleagues around the world, and congratulations to the colleagues from Ghana and India. That sounds very inspiring, and I don't think I can share such an optimistic story from Germany, but let's get to that in a second. So first of all, Germany has done 3 VNRs as well, which in general is a very, very good thing, because we see this continuous engagement with the SDGs at international level. So I can recommend to all of your countries as well to push for these VNRs, because it keeps the SDG spirit alive in a way. And for the last VNR in 2025, we did have, similarly to the other colleagues, quite a good stakeholder engagement. We could comment on the VNR, the written VNR report. We did that the last 2 times as well, and had a very open and inclusive process at the HLPF itself, where we were part of the official VNR presentation as a group of stakeholders, which were not just CSOs, but also representatives of trade unions, youth, and big corporations. So that was quite a successful cooperation between different stakeholder groups, which was initiated by the government. Also, I think one thing that works quite well in Germany is that we do have, every year we have national HLPF conferences in Germany itself that prepare the community for the HLPF of that year. So not only in VNR years, but every year. And it's kind of a meeting of all the relevant actors to discuss sustainability together, which I think is also quite applaudable as an idea. Now, however, I have to say the SDGs are not a priority in German politics at all. There's even, I would say, some backwards progress, because Germany used to be very engaged in the SDG process. It was one of the countries that was most engaged, I think, from the Global North at least, in the SDG negotiations. And we did have quite a successful whole of government approach at the beginning of the SDG timeline. But that has changed, unfortunately, in a way due to external pressure. I mean, geopolitics are very challenging for all of us right now, and especially we feel that in Europe as well, with alliances shifting, but also slowing economic growth and deindustrialization. All these things have been a priority now to tackle for the German government, and the SDGs have not been sort of the limelight to go about. And further, we have this sort of unholy alliance in our development sector now, or it's kind of streamlining through most of our policy areas, where development is not only intertwined with foreign policies, which, as you all know, as policy expert, is often quite a different thing, but it's also now aligned with security politics, or better, defense policies. So we do see quite a substantial change in the way that Germany addresses development cooperation in its different partnership countries. For instance, one of the new developments is that emerging economies will not be development cooperation partners anymore, but only get loans, which then, for instance, in the case of India, will change development policies and German-Indian relationship quite substantially. And this goes along with a huge reduction of development cooperation financial support, which has been the case for a couple of years. So we do see less engagement of Germany to invest in SDG implementation globally, which is a very worrying development for us NGOs in Germany, as we, of course, still see a very strong need for partnerships with our colleagues in Global South countries. Now, nationally, it is quite unclear how the German government will proceed with engagement of civil societies in Germany, as this follow-up process of the VNRs has only rudimentarily started. We have a government, as I said, that doesn't really place priority on the SDG implementation. So the two ministries that are responsible, the Ministry of Development and the Ministry of Environment, they have had meetings with us, but it is unclear how much they can actually influence the implementation in Germany itself, as this is not their daily business. We do see a focus on the private sector as an important cooperation partner, though here I have to say that doesn't necessarily mean small and medium enterprises or green economy actors, but more the big corporations. And here as CSOs, we do see one of the biggest challenges where we think Germany has to actually take the SDGs seriously again, because as you all know, our economic and social policies have a big impact on the rest of the world. As a matter of fact, if you look at spillover indices, so not necessarily SDG implementation data, which kind of obscures the impact that our policies have on the rest of the world, but spillover effects, so the implications on other regions, we are actually one of the worst countries. So of 163, Germany places 149. So this is something we have been telling the government, please focus on spillover effects as one of the mechanisms to implement the SDGs. Now, finally, one to leave up with a positive note, I do have to say that CSOs are still working quite strongly on SDGs. There's projects still going on that focus on SDGs, and we are trying to still connect all these actors that use the SDGs as a point of reference, though this has been a bit challenged because of a lot of NGOs have been focusing on single issues and don't really want to use the SDGs as a point of reference anymore because it doesn't really work as a lobbying instrument. But there is still quite a good network going on. And further, I think in the Beyond 2030 discussion, which will be whatever comes after the SDGs, the German NGOs are already quite strong and are looking for international partners to come up with either a push for the SDGs after 2030, where we can, as civil society globally, reignite the fire, or find a new sort of global policy sphere that we can work with you together on. And I think here we have quite an interesting place to connect with everyone. Yeah, so maybe I leave it at that.
Thank you, Maria Luisa, very much for this intervention. I actually see that a couple of colleagues wrote comments in the chat, I think trying to bring more positive overview to Germany in terms of amount of investment and focus on particular groups. At the same time, I would say from my personal experience, I think probably this critical assessment from German civil society actually brings us that Germany is still actually engaging more than other governments, and I really appreciate, Maria Luisa, your input, and I know your hard work actually with the government and pushing them, and we see that, for example, they also do right now more work and focus on spillover effects, and they even finance research in this direction, which is, I think, also a positive trend in this way. So, yeah, I would like to have a chance and give a moment to colleagues to ask questions. You can type it in the chat or raise your hand if you would like to ask anything to our speakers. And in between, I just want to also tell you that in the chat, I also copied and sent again the information where you can find newsletter for MGoS if you would like to join such kind of events later. And also, if you are from the current VNR country, you can also engage in our processes because this year 36 countries are reporting. So, colleagues, any questions to speakers right now? You can also raise your hand, or another option, because I saw that colleagues from other VNR countries which were reporting in 2025 joined. If you would like to share your experiences on what happened in your country, anything? I'm just trying to check.
I am unable to find the raised hand button on my computer. I apologize.
Yeah, please, Danny, then go ahead.
I'd like to share some experience from 2025, both positive and negative, from the VNRs for Bulgaria and the Czech Republic. I'd like to start with Bulgaria, where we had the intervention, and thanks to our colleagues at the constituency of discrimination and dissent, we had our intervention, and there was no follow-up until maybe two or 3 months after the high-level political forum, whereas the Czech Republic still has not responded, as far as I am aware. So it's like Maria stated, it's difficult with some countries, and especially in the European region, to actually have discussions on the sustainable development goals, and the VNRs are sometimes our only opportunity as civil society to raise these concerns about the sustainable development goals. And the country reports that they submit to the United Nations are what we as civil society are supposed to respond to, right? So Bulgaria did respond, and we are actually in touch with their government ever since, but some governments are not responsive at all. So that's just something that I think, in terms of the system itself, I think like it would be nice to have some kind of requirement for member states to respond to civil society's VNR interventions. So that's just something I wanted to put out there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Danny. And indeed, we actually try to monitor this, because some governments don't reply during the session at all, and they don't react to the statements. And some governments reply, but not really substantively. And some governments do reply, and there is follow-up dialogue. And yeah, unfortunately, it's really different experience. But I think it's also, thank you for your contribution. It's great to hear that you managed to actually to engage with the Bulgarian government after. So I think it's a really good example. So colleagues, any other questions or follow-up comments?
I see Alexander raising his hand.
I somehow don't see it. So, but Alexander, if you...
Yes, I'm here, but I'm mute.
Yes.
I was mute.
Okay.
Yes, my question goes to the colleagues from India and Ghana. We published several studies in the United Nations showing that the SDG indicators are entirely unilateral, and there is no way of your countries to achieve those indicators. This is the official position of the SDG organization, because since 10 years, the same 20 countries lead the SDG index. And every year they get praised for reaching the SDGs. We investigated. So my question to you is, do you know that there are indicators that Ghana and India, where we assess social goods, exist even, that contribute to the SDGs, but that are not officially accepted by the SDG cheating community?
Can I go ahead,
Yes.
Nelia?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Alexander, sir, for this very important question. In fact, when the SDG process started way back in 2015 and 16, couple of this perspective, that this is an international framework, and this is something which may not be aligned to the national priorities that we have. But as we moved on as a country, and in the global working, we realized that some of the indicators, the SDGs and the indicators, we need to domesticate it, or I can say that there is a process of indigenization of the indicators that happened. So I had a slide actually, which was talking about how the different layers have been created given the size of the country that India has. So we have created something called the 5 layers of SDG dashboard or SDG monitoring system, based on the global indicator framework. But we have primarily actually taken those indicators which are aligned to the country context and the country development, the paradigm that we live in. So in that way, we have sort of actually harmonized the SDG indicators based on our own context. And the other practical thing that what we did is we have sort of actually mapped the ministries, the agencies who are going to perform over these indicators or the goals. So those mapping of the ministries, departments, the agencies, that is actually a very long process, because we have 28 states, 8 union territories. There are more than 805 districts. There are number of sub-districts. There is something called a local self-governance, which are in millions. So, given the size of the country, what we have done is we have taken the advantage of the country's information technology or the digitalization power, so that at different layers of the SDGs, the indicators have been have been created and have been chosen, and based on that, the country is reporting to the global SDG indicators. But I consider the fact that there are a couple of global indicators where we are not able to align ourselves, and And therefore, actually, we have our own set of indicators, which we call it the indigenized indicators for the country, and based on which we are reporting and tracking our performance. I hope I could able to respond to your question.
Yes,
Thank you, Akbar.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you
Mary,
so
yeah,
much.
if you want.
Yes, I just wanted to add that in a global process, certainly some indicators would not suit every country, looking at our policy context and also all the other issues of values and things. But then Ghana has tried, just like Akbar said, to what we refer to it is the localization of our SDGs. And so in the context of what fits and what suits our development planning and policy agenda, we localize our SDGs in such a way that we are able to implement and also see where we need to work more on prioritizing these. Again, let me add that I don't believe any country across the globe has made significant progress or is achieving 100% when it comes to the implementation of all the goals, if I may say so, unless, of course, there's data to disprove me. I remember at the VNR processes or the high-level political forum meetings, one of them, we saw the analysis just like he presented that many countries are lagging behind, and that is a fact. And so that's why in Ghana, there has been intensification of working on the issues around diversity beyond on our extractive sector, where we have issues on supporting M&E, supporting youth level employment, strengthening fiscal discipline. And then when it comes to the issues around poverty and social protection, which is very important, government is working with all the other actors. Remember, this is a very inclusive process to scale up the social protection mechanisms that will benefit the poor, and also ensure that we are working on promoting the phasing out stages to ensure that people are empowered to do more. We've also seen that there is a lagging behind when it comes to education, particularly the number of girls who are finishing science, and so the issues around strengthening the STEM. And when it comes to health, we've seen that there has been some retrogression in the area of, we see HIV resurfacing, the reports showing an increase. And so we're strengthening on malaria and then education, prevention, and then HIV prevention. Then we talk about the huge issues around climate and environment, and then the governance. And in Ghana, governance is a subject that we are using as a cut across one to ensure that in each of the goals, we identify some issues around governance to be able to work on to ensure that we are promoting transparency and accountability in the affairs of state. Remember, in all of this, there is a huge component of commitments that are funding. And if we are not able to manage them, if we are not able to ensure that we are sealing the leakages, we would be doing all the beautiful work, but the leakages will take away the results we all want to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mary. We are really running out of time according to our schedule, and that's why I see that also there are discussions in the chat and similar actually discussions what just Mary mentioned, and I think it's good that we are in thinking in the same direction. And I will just invite our speakers to give the last really short phrases, I would say, and I would invite you to say, how do you see the next, I don't know, half a year follow-up process, or a year? What do you think is still possible to do, or what's your plan how to work with the government? Yeah, if I may start with Maria Luisa, if you have some ideas?
Yes, thank you. As the other speakers have mentioned, the localization, I think there's still a lot of room to maneuver in many countries because there the SDGs become more relatable to people. We have to translate them in a way that it's relatable to people, while still always saying this is a governmental agenda. This is not an SDG agenda. We would have written it differently, and we do write our rights differently. So I think that's important. And I want to just say to Maritza, I really agree with what you wrote. It's been very difficult, and it's becoming more and more difficult with governments just breaking away from multilateralism. And I think this is something we have to be very aware of and still remain united as much as we can in civil society spaces. So thank you, Nelia, for organizing this talk. I think that's very important.
Thank you very much. Akbar, if you have some final words, how you see the follow-up process for you?
The important ones is that in the given civic space and a very difficult fractured world, it's very important that we must actually push our government collectively and also very wisely. I know that it's not a very easy stuff actually going ahead, but there is no way out because we are just left with 5 years to the completion of the SDG. My own take, given our experiences, if we can just prioritize again, the number of things which are regressing or which are not able to progress, but if we can actually build some priorities of the stuffs which needs immediate attention, and specifically when it comes to the people who are left behind, never been included, if the CSO mechanisms or the VNR processes can able to bring those segments into attention, I think probably that is the only way what I see in terms of the next follow process. The second one is we also want given the limited civic space, how the UN country offices or the bilateral agencies can actually take the lead in terms of creating these collectives of the civil society and create opportunities of dialogue with the government so that the civil societies can represent those voices, be it persons with disabilities or any intersectionalities who have not been actually covered. I think the left out years of the SDG must articulate those sections going ahead as a follow process. We have started in India something called the SDG budgeting. I mean, that is something that we started off late, and we have been successful in just approximately 30 or 40% of our provinces. Given the size of the country, again, I'm saying that, but that's a good progress, and those are all sort of the good examples that we can carry forward in terms of scaling the impact that we want to actually achieve. But resourcing the SDG is very, very critical, and configuring the persons with disabilities, or for that matter all the LNOP groups, are very, very critical to the success of the SDGs. So that's the key message I would like to actually place on. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mary, just if you have something to add on your follow-up process, if you see any perspectives, just short.
Thank you very much. Just to say thank you for this opportunity, the major groups and conveners for this meeting, and to say that judging by the success and the number of people who have joined this meeting today, I believe that we need to take these opportunities very seriously to be able to come together, identify the issues in country, and then work together, because in working together, as groups, civil society, other groups, we are able to project our voices even more. And we are able to also break the chain of the constricting civil space, which others have spoken to. In our process, we have a clear work to also ensure that we don't leave anything behind, ensure that we follow, pursue, and track implementation and provide feedback to government. Remember, governments will not open their space to groups as easily as it is. But then if we give them constructive feedback, if we show them evidence of the advocacy we are engaging in, I am very sure that certainly we would continue to be called, we would continue to be solicited for our inputs, and we will be making a significant impact in the implementation of the SDGs and the various targets we seek to achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear speakers and dear audience. Thank you for joining us. And I think it's a great conclusion also for our event. And I just see that Oli is still with us. Oli, if you would like to say also a couple of concluding words.
Thanks, Nelia. Yes, I'm just about to run over to the UN. But yeah, thank you again to everyone. I think it's been a really insightful webinar, and it's so useful that we have time to reflect together, both on what's worked and also where the challenges are, particularly now, as Marie-Louise highlighted, that we start to look beyond 2030, and the coming years will be really crucial for us to try to lock in any gains that we've seen, but also consider how we can accelerate things in the next cycle, even in the face of such huge geopolitical challenges that we see around the world. So it's really wonderful to hear from so many colleagues, and I really think we should continue to do more of these sessions, as we've highlighted. Thank you again to everyone. And Nelia, maybe it's worth also reminding people that the major groups now UNS on the week starting the 9th of February, right? For the coming...
Oli, your connection is disappearing.
So hopefully many of you will also be able to join those webinars that are coming up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Oli. Just will repeat what Oli was trying to say. And I shared the link that especially those countries who are reporting in 2026, we invite also on our webinars, which we will organize together with Rwandasa from 10th to 12th of February. You can find the information in the links I provided before. So yeah. And also, I encourage you to join our newsletter where you can find more information about MGoS activities and which go also beyond VNR task group. So thank you very much again. And thank you again, speakers, especially for your contributions.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye.